motion on the consent agenda? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
We get to start off this evening with, on a very positive note, Mr. Lanzoni has with him today, thank you, I thought I turned it on, I guess I turned it off, has with him today a group of parents who were instrumental in getting dugouts built for our softball players. Mr. Lanzoni, would you like to come up and introduce the group?
As Dr. Malice said, we had a group of community members that got together and did a great thing for our athletic program, our softball field. They built 2 dugouts on our Nassau softball field. But I announced, I'm not sure if everybody's here, but everybody that was instrumental in getting this done. Jerry Fiore, come on up. Trish Fiore, Dan Smith, Glenn Corcoran, Mike Mastranono, Avila Lopez, Steve James, and Rob O'Brien. Before I hand the mic over to Mr. Fiore, he said he had a short presentation. He holds that. I just want to say, back in June 2011, Mr. Fiore called me up and asked to meet with Ms. Maloney and Mr. Downs, our Director of Facilities. And we met at district office, and I can remember that meeting. Mr. Fiore said, we have some great ideas to improve the condition of our softball field, build 2 dugouts and fence, and after the meeting, there's a ton of great ideas. After the meeting, Mr. Downs looked over at me as we were walking out, and he said, you think he's serious? You think he's going to be able to get this done? And I said, I don't know. He seemed pretty determined. And he definitely lived up to that. This, if you haven't been over there at the Nassau softball field, the dugouts are beautiful. Just a great addition to our program. It's something that our kids, this year's group of athletes, and there's some of them here in the audience, are going to have the pleasure to use, and for many, many years to come. And the work that this group put in on the weekends, away from their families, over the summer, it was just tremendous. And I also want to thank Ms. Maloney for all the work. She had the luxury of working with New York State Ed, and Mr. Downs is still putting in a lot of time doing the finishing touches, but just an outstanding addition to our athletic program and our facilities. And I want to present each member here. I'm sure they have one of these shirts, but if they don't, they have another one. An athletic Spartan shirt to show our appreciation. Thank you.
All right, I just want, I think everybody's seen everybody here. It was a group effort between everybody here. It was a lot of fun, but a lot of hard work, but finished accomplishment. You want to just go through the slides, and I just have to talk with the slides. So like Mr. Lanzoni said, Coach Laura came. Coach Laura is a softball coach. She came to Dan and I, and actually came to my wife first, and said, what can we do? She goes, I think you better talk to my husband more than that. So we discussed field ideas, and like Mr. Lanzoni said, we met pretty much June and August of 2011, going back and forth on different ideas. At first, we said, hey, can we move the field further into the school? We're going to have a lot of room, and that was a lot of money to change all that. And so we went about a couple different ideas and all. So we finally said, we can leave it as it is and just put the dugouts right there. Then in October, we actually met with the board to give our proposal, and they were all kind enough to say, yes, you can do it, but if you do it, you have to fund it entirely yourself. We can't give any money for it. So we said, all right, that's fine, that's a challenge, but we thought we could do it, everybody was into it. And then we met with the softball, the football boosters. So I want to say thank you to them. When we did build it, and we'll show you that a little bit, a lot of football players came over and helped us with the concrete block. The president of the softball boosters, Mitch Yusevich, he allowed us to use their bank account, and all the money we raised kind of on their account, and they kept it separate. And he also came over on a Saturday morning after a Friday night game doubles of concrete, so it was very nice for the football. It was like a community. We helped them do the football concessions at the football games, so that was kind of nice. Everybody worked together, and my daughter's a senior, and she knows a lot of football players, so they all kind of, it was fun, and it was a good community effort. And then, like I said, in December 2011, we submitted the blueprints, and I'm on the soccer board for town of Poughkeepsie, and a woman there's husband's an architect, and we got to talk, and she goes, you know what? I think my husband will make blueprints for you, because that's an expense, but he gave it to us for free. Everything pretty much, a lot of stuff was donated and all, so that was very nice. So in February 2012, it does take a little while to go through New York State to get approval, even for dugouts. We weren't building a building, but they came through. So then we said, all right, in January to May, we got to start doing some fundraising. So Mr. Lanzoni was very nice. He gave us the idea, said, hey, you guys want to do the Hall Finals, which is the basketball championships on Ulster for boys and girls. And I'm from that area. I said, yeah, we'll take that. And it gave us a big start. I think what did we get? Almost $1,000. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, but that started us off. And then we did some other concessions at local CYO games. My kids are involved with the St. Martin program, and they play right here at Todd, so we did concessions every Saturday to help that. And then we started saying, all right, now we need to talk to local businesses if you donate money. And a lot of them, you'll see a list, a lot of them stepped up. And our last thing to do with the dugouts is in springtime, we're going to put up a sign on the side of the dugout thanking all the people that, donated X number of dollars. So we get them a picture. And then, so that's the construction. So in the August time frame, we started the construction. Mike right here, he's a builder, so he was very instrumental with that. He had some friends that knew how to do the footing, so he was key. Emilio too, and Steve. They all, I'm not a builder, I'm more the admin guy. They were all more, hammers and all, and I was just hammering stuff. So it's the same with Len, and these guys had all the saw, so it made it a lot easier. And then we got a lot of people donate stuff. Clementi Cement, which did a lot of work for the school here, they donated, I think, about 8 yards, and we just looked at the bill, about $1,000 worth of cement. And then we have people donate concrete block. And then we just kind of finished a couple of weeks ago with the benches. And I think we're almost near done. Right? I think we're pretty much. Now we might get a little more extravagant, looking for fridges to put in there, a little different things. My daughter wants a heated seat, so we got to look at that. Okay? So these are just, so we kind of said whoever gives us $250 in cash, that we would put their name on a sign. So Dr. Willard actually was very nice. He gave us a big donation. If you look through there, it's most of the local. When we try to get the restaurants and stores that are in the Spackenkill area, and most people, when I asked them, they said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. They didn't, nobody really turned me down. And we kind of went, as we needed more money, I would go out and say, all right, let's ask a couple more businesses, see what they would do. And that's what they did. This is some businesses that just donated, not money, but material. So, like I said, Clementi Cement, they gave the 8 yards. Our friend did the blueprints. Dave's Hardware, which Mike got, they were right there, we didn't think about them. They gave us storage doors and some money. Hudson Valley Roofing gave us roofing supplies. This one, I sent a note to Benjamin Moore, just the headquarters, just out of the lark. Hey, we're doing this, will you send us any paint? And I forgot about it, about a month later, I got a note. Love the idea, go see your local Hudson Valley Benjamin Moore on 55, and Bird's out the paint, so we'll donate all the paint. I said, wow. I said, all right, you just send an email, you never know. Kingston Block gave us $750, Colombo Block gave us $750, Silcon gave us 25 tons of stone, and Williams Lumber gave a discount, and the Hudson Valley, what's the name of Hudson River Truck and Trailer. Matt, who's he lives in Spackenkill, he came over and did the puddings. You'll see a picture of him dug the puddings, and he also gave a donation. His was a gas donation, but he gave a lot of time. So like I said, it was a good community effort, and now we're just going to go like a little timeline of the. So this is just, as it says, this is the crew at the Mahal Finals where we're doing the concession. Len had a friend at work and said, hey, you need a grill? We said, yeah, get one of those 6-foot grills. So we donated, let us use the grill for that night, and Dan had a truck and we transported it up. This is just the crew, as we want to call them. That we got to watch some basketball too, so it was kind This is, like I said, Matt, he started to dig into the footings. I think everybody's gonna know, like Mr. Lanzoni said, the dugouts are behind Nassau at the elementary school. This is laying the cement down and putting the footings in. And Dave Down was very helpful too. He'd come over and give us ideas and work with us and different things. So it was a good community effort. Michelle and Mark and Dave, the school was very helpful. This is just kind of laying out all the block, and this is the field at the location. Just some more blocks. All right, this is like when we started getting a little serious. Like at one point, I had to admit, I told my wife early in the process, like, man, we're never going to get this off. Was stated, just said, we just said, stick with it, what happened? And then all of a sudden, a couple things turned. And then once we knew we got the walls up and going like that, actual building materials, said, you know what, we're on our way. This is the guys did a great job on the roof on those long beams across. It's nice. These dugouts are a little different than the normal one. I don't know if everybody's familiar with dugouts, but they don't have a pole in the middle, so it's kind of nice. So I got the pole. We got to go a little extra money for the beam. It's a special LED beam, but they gave us a nice discount, so that was nice. This is the visitors dugout. And you'll see the other one. It's a little smaller than the storage area because that was Dave really wanted a storage area on one of the dugouts, so to store a lot of stuff. These are some people that like now. Mitch Yusevich is on the left. Like I said, he was the football boosters. Chip Wolowski, he's the guy in the middle with the hat on. His daughter played a couple of years ago. He came back and helped. And Mike McCall, he's got a couple of daughters on the modified program working up. So we got a lot of different people. Say, hey, I'll come over, give you a few hours and help out. This is, we went to, we did a little copying. We went up to Marist College. Mike went up to Marist College and said, you know what? I love the style of their benches. And again, I'll use my oldest daughter. She loved the idea where you can sit on the top shelf and, right there, put your feet down there. Like, we got to have that. I said, all right, that's one thing I requested from Mike. We got to have that. So they're very similar to Marist. I think they're a little sturdier, right, Mike? This is like the completed view of the visitors dugout. I would like, again, Dave did come down and he had some of his crew paint the dugouts. We said we do. He goes, no, I got a couple of people that want to do it and all that. And we said, okay, so the top part is a gray there and it's a green. And he did some stone around for us too. And he laid some new soil on the field. This is a picture of the home dugout. You can see the block wall to the right. That's the storage room. It's probably what, 10 by 10? 10 by 16, so you can fit in the portable fence that we have and other supplies. And I don't know if anybody's gotten to the games. A lot of times the girls got to go up to school, bring the rakes up, bring them back down. It's a lot of hassle. So now they can store them in there, store their bags in there, and just things like that. And they'll go back one. Sorry. And on the left, there's like a little cubby hole there. That's where they can put their helmets, so stuff like that. And then Dave's are coming and put some fencing on. And the last view, the top part, is what the field looked like without the dugouts, and the bottom part is what it looks like with the completed dugouts. So overall, we thought we'd be done by this season, be ready for this season, because when it came upon, it was like kind of quick to get all that done. I know I wanted it done this season, but now that I look back, I told my wife that would have been a lot of work, because there's a lot of things that come involved with it, they don't realize. So starting for the senior season for my daughter, I'm happy with that. The color looks good, and I think these guys did a great job.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate, number one, on budget, perfect, nothing. So this day and age with a 2% tax cap, these things mean a lot. So it really does help the program. I know I had 2 kids that went through that without those dugouts, so I know where that you're coming from, sitting out there on those little cold bleachers and in the way of the balls whizzing by. So it was very nice, and I appreciate everybody's dedication and enthusiasm in seeing its completion. I know how things can kind of lag and you get a little discouraged there in the middle, but then all of a sudden you see the light at the end of the tunnel and it really comes together. So I appreciate it very much, and I know the whole board does. Thank you.
We've got one other project we're thinking of on a grander scale. Yeah, we're going to see on that.
They're going to build that turf field.
Yeah, that's our next project.
is upbeat, but unfortunately, we get back to a little bit of reality, but we ease into it, certainly the more serious one for last. The next presentation is something about the impact of the state mandates on our district. And the truth is that really, this is probably true for most districts in terms of what the state mandates have required of districts. Of course, it's personalized to us because that's who we care about and who we know best. And it came about as a result, actually, of a presentation that Ralph saw as one of the BOCES board members. And they had done a presentation for their board that was following a similar format and had the same categories on the left-hand side. And we kind of took it and then improvised and made it into our own document. So Jill and I are going to kind of tag team and present what you have in the pages in front of you. If you haven't received one of these, there are copies of these at the table. Is there anybody who wants one that doesn't have one? Because there is no PowerPoint. One of the pieces that we had to do as a result of teacher and leader effectiveness, basically the APPR, Annual Professional Performance Review law that was signed into effect by Governor Cuomo, was really a lot of professional development and technical assistance. First thing that we had to do was to work with the teachers union to study the various rubrics that were approved by the state. There were a limited number of rubrics that we could choose from. I believe there were 6. And we had to negotiate which of those we would use with the teachers union. We had to do a similar thing, actually, with the Principals Association. So virtually everything that we talk about in terms of the teachers, the same had to be done with the principals, but the rubrics were different. So some of the details changed, but the process was the same. So the next step was to be able to change the observation system to fit this rubric. We were lucky in that we had actually already done a lot of work using a similar framework, and we only had to make some minor revisions to the language to fit what is Danielson law. And once we had that done, we then had to work into a computer system, which we do through my learning plan, a special program called Oasis, where we have our online observations and the administrators go in there, and that's how we, in a sense, personnel file for all of the evaluation here. All the observations and evaluations get done online. All of that had to be done. The administrators had to be trained in its use. The principals had to be trained as lead evaluators for teachers, and Jill and I had to be trained as lead evaluators for principals, as well as teachers. And this involved quite a lot. There were 7 different categories that we had to receive training in, which was done by basically having Jill attend the training at the state level and then turn through the training to all of the administrators here. The last piece of it is actually happening this Thursday with a section about English language learners. And it's an online workshop that we're going to work through together so that we know it's all finished. And at that point, they'll be ready to be certified as lead evaluators. Student learning objectives, you've heard something about, affectionately called SLOs. And essentially, that was another thing that required both teacher training and principal training. We had worked with our Duchess BOCES to use their network team to provide 2 full days of training with their consultant. This trainer was on site and worked with our teachers in each building. It required also some assistance from the union, to be honest, because she wasn't there, the teacher wasn't there long enough for BOCES, and so Kathy had to become a bit of an expert in it herself, as well as the principals, and do a lot of follow-up with people afterwards. The creation and recording of the SLOs took the first few months. And part of the problem was that the state really didn't give us a lot of information about how the slows were to be written. And we would keep asking for samples, and we would ask ICE for samples, and we would ask the state for samples, and basically nobody had any samples to share. It was something that we were all sort of inventing for the first time individually. And so there were times that we would take 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards, because we would do something only to find out that the state really wanted it done a different way after they had a chance to think about it so well. We then had to submit our APPR plans to the State Education Department, revise, resubmit, and revise, and resubmit again. As they give us language that is as specific as in the appeals process, we have to say that the appeals process will be expedited in a timely manner. So it's not necessarily that what we had done is it's just that they had certain language they were looking for that may not have been there because nobody ever said it had to be there. So we're now in our 3rd revision, and luckily we work with the same person each time who will tell us. We get into a big part of the testing, and if you look for a minute down to number 2, we had to implement the entire new testing program. To a large extent, this was maps that we talked about before, the NWA maps. And that involved, again, studying the tests that were on the approved list by the state, coming to an agreement on the product that also had to be negotiated, developing schedules for testing, training and implementation of the testing, tech and data preparation for being able to implement the testing, training faculty and administration in the use of the data, and then sharing information with parents through letters and meetings. There was another piece to go back up to the common assessment design that was something that happened during the summer, and that was something that happened in areas like phys ed and music, art, and careers, big echo, social studies, some of the social studies grades, and essentially we worked through 2 or 3 different BOCES by co-serving with them in order to take their specialty areas, so that some BOCES, for example, their own was used for several things. Phys ed, music and art, and home and careers. We had to use the Herkimer BOCES for some of the other assessments, social studies, and there was a 3rd BOCES, no? Okay, not yet. In addition to this, that involved some of our staff actually working with these groups to develop these testing assessments for that whole consortium. But we are now at a place where we're finding, and we kind of suspected this would be true, that the 11th and 12th grade tests are not as useful, the maps are not as useful for those students, and the teachers have asked that we be able to next year eliminate those and replace them with district produced tests. But we need to find a consultant who can know enough and knows enough about testing. We're hoping that it will be David Abrams, who used to work at State Ed, who will come work with us on these creation of these exams for the higher level courses in 11th and 12th grade. And that's something that we're just moving into in the next semester, basically, in preparation for a year from now. And then finally, the last bullet in number 1 is that during every cabinet meeting, many summer staff development days, we've worked to bring the principals and all of the administrators to consensus about what good lesson design looks like, what a good lesson looks like, by actually watching sample video lessons and doing evaluation or observations of them, and then talking about our impressions to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page as far as what we're looking for when we go into classrooms. We also use that time to keep current about how things are going, to hear concerns from the principals, and to talk about any professional development opportunities them or the teachers to better understand all that has been changed in the last year. I thought at this time it would be good to invite the teachers and the principals to come up and speak to how this has had an impact on them from a day-to-day kind of standpoint. And so we'll start with the teachers. Kathy Robinson and Patrick Bowder and Colleen Drummond. All right, I'm from the high school, so in terms of the APPR, first in a global fashion, we had a group of teachers on the committee that sat through with the union and did all of the decision-making with the district, so they put a lot of time in both during last school year and this summer and the beginning of this school year. We'd like to thank them as well. But we had faculty meetings this year to learn about all the different domains. So in every single building, we had faculty meetings once a week since the beginning of the school year to learn about the different parts of the APPR process. So that took some time from us. The union held 2 general membership meetings over the last half a year from 3:30 to 5 o'clock to go over the APPR. We had multi-day slow trainings, so in terms of that, we had a day where we had a consultant come in from outside. So during our lunch or our prep or our professional period, we would go in and talk to the person about the slows, and Jill was there as well, and I tried to go to every single one of them to learn about how to write our own slows and get more familiar with the process. In high school, we had a couple days from 3 to 5 where Steve and Jill were available in the library where we would do that as well. As part of doing the slows, each one of the individual teachers had to do a data collection process on each one of our students to find out the different things that they've accomplished in the past, their different test results, the math testing results. We had to review all of that data so that we could roll it into our slows and write our slows. Again, some of the teachers did attend in the high school and the other buildings, the BOCES, in the summer to help create the local assessments. All the teachers have to log in now to New York State to verify their class lists as part of the state process. So last year, most of us had to do it, to go in and do that, and we have to continue to do it this school year.
I just say that's a new system that you have to learn your logins and go through the brief training process, because it's a place in the state that didn't exist free before, so that was a new training for all the teachers as well.
You can't turn your password into something nice, so it's a pain. I know all of us, as part of the process of creating the data and looking at the data, had to go through stepping stones training, which is the training to read the math test results and understand how to read it and what kind of information it could give us for our students as well. During that time, in the high school, the computer lab and the library and certain rooms in the building were used for all of the testing, so we lost use of those rooms during all that testing. For some teachers, the English teachers, they lost 4 days of classes, and math lost 2 days of classes, and science, 9th and 10th lost 2 days, and then in the special areas, some of them had days where they had to give pre-tests during their classes as well.
The middle school suffers from some of the same topics as the high school does. Loss of time. A good example, it's a little bit different sometimes in the middle school. For example, to run the math testing in the middle school, everything's online. So we have to use all the available hardwired computers because you can't do it on laptops with wireless. So for example, the computer labs for both computer and the tech room get used up for, let's say, 5 to 6 days, depending upon how we schedule things. Well, those are both 2 courses that are 10-week courses. So when they lose 5 to 6 days on it, that's a big chunk of their time out of a period. So that's one of the unintended consequences of math. I would say another unintended consequence of even the APPR training, which we all had to have, and we all understand it was new for both admin and us, was the after-school meetings. I can tell you, and I think Mike would probably back me up on this, that the reality is the number of kids who have been staying after school for extra help in the middle school is off dramatically from last year. Because a student would ask you, can I stay after, and I'd have to turn to them, and it's happened to me. I'm like, I'm sorry, I have a meeting, and that would be 1 meeting a week. And on top of that, that's the same kind of time they often we do, if not a whole faculty meeting, then department meetings or parent meetings. So suddenly, that really did hurt
some of the extra help at the middle school level. We went through all the kind of slow trainings and issues that the high school did. Some of the teachers are still a little, I don't know, I guess tense is the best word that I can use, because what you're suddenly seeing is you now have part of your evaluation based upon exams and tests that you've never seen before, especially in the special areas, in the places like home and careers or in health or in phys ed, because yes, while some of those are locally developed, it doesn't mean a Spackenkill teacher was necessarily on the committee to make those. For example, I'm social studies. I know for social studies we're using the one from Herkimer, right? I'm going to trust Herkimer knew what they were doing, but to be perfectly honest, it's a test I've never seen before. I have some kind of idea of the format, so suddenly I know how the ELA teachers feel. But you know, it does create kind of tension to where you don't know how far this is going to go. And you know, it's the unknown, and a lot of it for us has been, and this is true for, it's nobody's fault, but New York State's, everything, I'll say it, I don't care, they listen. Because everything had to be done now. Everything had to be done so rushed. So we have faced, honestly, the same problems that everybody around here has faced. I would say that we did get lucky with the JTAC committee in the sense that we had kind of our frustration was we had worked very hard to put what we thought was a very good evaluation together, and then New York State came in and said, no, you can't use any of that. So we had to kind of trash what we had done just the year before and create new. So we had a good working relationship, so there wasn't really too much fighting about the negotiated things for which rubric to use and so on. Really what was the most frustrating thing were the unknowns that none of us knew and nobody could give us a straight answer. But it has had an impact on how people are teaching. Some people are, I hate to say this, but are adapting the lessons because they're worried about the test. I listened to one teacher talk about how she completely changed something that she used to like to really do because this is the way it's presented on a test. And you know, because she's worried that the student's going to sit down at the test and not be able to do that. And honestly, I think she was more worried for the student than she was for herself. I don't think she was somebody who was sitting there, oh, I have to have a perfect eval or anything like that. But it does affect how you do things. And a lot of us, you know, we made the slows. And yes, I will call them slows. I don't care. And a lot of us are like, we've made something we've never made before, created a target we're not sure we can hit. We created a goal that we think we can all reach, but we're still all in the dark because this is a brand new thing for us. So I would say at the middle school, and I would imagine something at the high school, it's that same kind of a word. You want to say about it? Sorry, yeah, I didn't. She took all mine.
I don't have much more to add, except that in the primary school in K2, we did do our slows as a team. In kindergarten in particular, we only use the MAPS data because that's all we have for kindergarten. And of course, you know, it's one point on the graph. You know, we are very anxious to be looking at the January MAPS testing to see where our kids have moved from. Because I don't know if you mentioned, but in the high school and middle school, you may or may not know that the amount that they're going to increase is very little. But in the elementary schools, we expect quite a bit of growth, which is going to really help us be able to gear our instruction. We're using a lot of the MAPS data to figure out what all of our activities, our lessons are going to be based on the areas that children need. It's all related to the Common Core, which is really nice because we can now be able to parallel with that and find out where the kids are. There was not any really big surprises as far as where we thought our kids were going to be, but yet we still need to be able to move them forward to the next level. Like I said, this level we did as a team.
Some new attendance requirements there.
That comes later.
I was told to wait on it, but yes.
Now, the impact, of course, affected the principals as much, at least, as the teachers.
Yeah, there isn't anything. Yeah, this is what it did to me. No, there isn't anything that they just mentioned that doesn't affect us directly as well. I guess if there was one thing, though, that I would point out that I think has impacted the administrators more than anything else, again, it's time, but it's the impact and the time that it takes for the whole evaluation process. I actually had not done the math before, and I'm sorry actually now that I did it, because I feel worse now than I did before. But just to give you an idea, as far as, and I'll speak about, myself, but I don't think my situation is that different than any of the other administrators. And I think the numbers that I'm using are intentionally conservative. I erred on the lower side as far as the numbers. But for me, I have roughly about 40 observations, 40 teachers that I need to complete observations for. So the pre and post observation process for those teachers, that hasn't changed. We've always done pre-observation, done post-observations. Think about an observation period being about 45 minutes. So I figure for me to complete those, and that happens within the school day, it's about 60 hours. But something that is new for us is now the requirement to have additional observation time. And we're doing that through walkthroughs. So for me, I'm figuring that's an additional, conservatively, 40 hours that prior to this year would not have been happening. So, we have a minimum of 3 walkthroughs that we're required to complete, 2 of which need to have post-observations, all of which, so I'm thinking about 40 hours for something like that. As far as the process of writing the observations, that has increased significantly. And we've learned the new way, and we continue to learn the new way to write these observations, because it's very different than what any of us have ever done before. It looks different, it sounds different, it feels different, and it takes much longer. I would say for us, we're averaging right now anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, and I think that's conservative, per observation. So before, whereas I think to write up my observations, it would have taken me roughly 60 hours, and that's something that really does have to happen outside of school day, despite the fact that we will often plan to get some of that done during the school day. I'm just telling you, it doesn't happen. That's time that's outside of the school day. So whereas before I would say about 60 hours, I would say now we're anticipating that will be about 140 hours. Okay, so there's about an 80-hour difference there. So add that 80 hours to the 40 hours that previously we weren't doing with walkthroughs. It's significant. That doesn't even bring into question the evaluation piece. So I think a conservative estimate for that, too, would be, let's say it took us 60 hours to complete our evals before. I think 140 hours to do what we're going to need to do evaluation-wise is absolutely conservative. And Dr. Cullen asked us to come to whine about it, and I don't want it to be whining about it, but the reality for us is it's a ton of time. And they talked about, with everything that they've had to do, now there's limited time in each day, each week, each month. And the reality for us is we're going to do this work because we must do this work, and it's important work, but there's an awful lot of other things that you might argue are equally important that cannot happen because of how overwhelming this task is, I think, for us right now. So, and I think, everybody else would say the same, but there's one, SLOS absolutely took a lot of time for us, but honestly, between Jill and Lois, they took it much more on the nose, I felt, than I did, because of the work that they did. It made the process easier for us, and hopefully indirectly the teachers. And now that piece, is kind of finalized, so we can move on. I'm not, a month ago I was thinking much more about SLOS than I am now. Now I can kind of forget about that for a few months until we see how we're doing, and then when it gets to evaluation time. But overwhelmingly for us, the changes that we felt are due to APPR and the time it takes for the whole evaluation process.
I would just like to add to what everybody said, and that is that please note that nothing was taken away. So we still had new school configuration to deal with. We still had all the adjustments of the new school year, and I'm going to new principals in new schools. So we have, and this is the MO of state ed. It's been through the years, whether it was the region faction plan or whatever other plan that they had, that none of the regulations were taken away. If anything, there were more, obviously more regulations put in place. I think that one thing that continues to make Spackenkill is that each and every one of the decisions and negotiations were based upon, first and foremost, what will help us improve student achievement. You may hear, they are not approved yet, but you may hear of other school districts that did not use their local 20% in the same fashion that we did. In fact, they said, we'll give a local. I've never been told I couldn't be heard before. We'll just give a local assessment. And after talking with all the members of the Daytime Committee, who then went out and spoke as well to their colleagues, and speaking to the principals and the other administrators, we determined that what was most important for us was being able to have a vertical measure that was comparable. When Dr. Powell talked about the potential for building the local assessments, there are requirements by the state that those assessments pass certain muster. They have to be, and I said this before, valid, reliable, comparable, rigorous, and aligned to the Common Core. If we don't hold it to that standard, we cannot give the test. No single class can be tested. It has to be, at minimum, a district-wide test that is handled much in the same way that a Regents exam would be. In that, a test would be prepared as the one Patrick referred to. No one was able to be up in Herkimer for the dates that they were working with David Abrams. So we bought into the process so that we could have access to the test. But our 7th and 8th grade teachers, the 7th and 8th grade teachers are using a BOCES prepared, grade-specific social studies exam that these teachers have never seen. So it's not unlike the Regents exams. So all of this, which is really just kind of like Reader's Digest for everybody, is on top of the full-time work that we have to do in order to keep the classrooms running and the schools running. So, on the next page. In order for the 3 through 8 classes to be prepared for these new assessments, for which we have never seen any of them, and just about 2 weeks ago, the state released their testing guide, which tells teachers, this is an example of the kind of question that we will ask, and how long it will take and what the directions are. So we did at least get that. But mind you, we've been through September, October, November, and yeah, so we probably got it at the end of November. So those testing manuals were released just then. So what that tells you is that the 3 through 8 testing is different this year. This is the new testing for 3 through 8. They've been warning us that it's coming, and it's based on the Common Core curriculum. All of last year, we worked on, again, this is very abbreviated, 6 shifts in ELA and 6 shifts in math. But in addition, in order to be prepared, which is kind of the Spackenkill mode, we also worked on a high school level for the teachers, because although it's not this year, those tests will be changed. And the 8th graders that are being tested newly this year in the new system will be coming up to the high school for 9th grade, having had a year of Common Core and an assessment in Common Core behind them. So in order to get them ready, we went through those shifts, and they all did a sample unit last year. Some of the training in Todd, the teachers met once a month. In the high school, I believe, they met 4 times in the year. And they created 1 or 2 units that were submitted to administration for evidence.
The tri-state rubric is the standard that the state is using, so if we have any courses that are not adapted or adopted from the state curriculum, they have to be measured through the tri-state rubric. So we have that, and we're going through that process this year and looking at all of our courses. So preparations for the new tests required study on the part of the teachers before making that immediate adjustment to their teaching. There are some really good examples on Engage New York that was much less robust last year, but it was robust enough for us to get some really good ideas about what the shifts are in teaching. And one of the things that the teachers and anybody really who thinks about it are concerned about is time, because we have teachers who are learning their new evaluation system. And I have to say that the evaluation system is almost a misnomer, because the way this is set up, if you took off the headings, if you took off highly effective, developing, or ineffective, and just looked at the descriptors, it is a path to becoming a highly effective teacher. So if we took away, if they had given it to us as a method for improving teaching and learning, it would not have had the weight and the concerns that everybody is feeling, because at the end of the day, an evaluation is an evaluation, and being called a name like ineffective or developing, effective or highly effective, means something to people. So if you get past that for the purposes of improving instruction, it does give us a consistent language by which every administrator in the district can help to improve teaching, even from effective to highly effective. Curriculum mapping is one of the things that had to be put on hold for two reasons. One reason was we had gone far enough with the directives we had gotten about what the Common Core shifts were, but it wasn't until about, I'm going to say 2 weeks ago again, but sometime very, very recently that the state issued the 1 through 5 ELA curriculum. So we are negotiating with our mapping software company to see if they can automatically upload the New York State curriculum that we can then adapt in our district, but to save us and the teachers the time and the concern about doing that. One of the reasons it's important to follow the state curriculum, aside from the fact that we should, is that it will help us understand what they are going to assess. So if, for example, in 4th grade, they don't teach X, Y, Z until the beginning of June, then I know it's not going to be on the 4th grade assessment. You see what I'm saying? So there's all kinds of clues that we're looking at to try to help the teachers in their pacing. But the formal curriculum mapping of our curriculum had to be put on hold.
So we had the training last year, and again, without a class for at least 4 days. We all had to write 2 units of Common Core last year and hand them into the district. So whatever we didn't finish in those days, we also had to do. Most of us actually also tried to teach that Common Core unit because we picked something we were currently teaching. And so that was a little bit different. In the high school, I'll say, we are clueless about next year in many ways. We have no set idea, in some cases, especially math, of what our curriculum is going to be, and so we can't even start preparing for next year. We have an idea of the whole Common Core concept, but if you ask me where something was going to be taught, I couldn't answer to you, so it's actually creating more agita in most of us than anyone can think, because we would be adapting more of it this year as we taught if we knew what was going on. So the high school's kind of like, we know what's happening next year, because the state just came out now with the younger grades, so maybe by this time next year we'll know.
For the middle school, I can tell you that we did have a lot of Common Core training pull out, which was needed. Right? We wanted to know what was going on, we wanted to see what we were doing, but there was a cost to it. It took me out of class 8 times, and if you look at, for example, special ed teachers who do push-ins, somebody like Tom Kirschenheider in the middle school, who does like social studies and math, or Melissa Walsh, who does multiple subjects, they got pulled out. I got pulled out 8 times. They got pulled out like 12 times. So those kind of things do cost. Hopefully we're past a lot of that now. But we also still have a lot of people who are worried about Common Core. For example, in social studies, I'm supposed to be supporting the ELA Common Core standards. To be perfectly honest, as a social studies teacher, it's very easy to do that. And I kind of looked at it when they looked at it, and I said, well, if I'm not doing this, I'm not doing my job. So it wasn't really that difficult. But how does this, but for the phys ed teachers, for the music teachers, for the art teachers who suddenly have to have big writing components that they never had before, this is new for them. And it's part, and it is kind of it does go right to the evaluation as well. Because part of the tests that are used for the evaluation have to have Common Core connections. So there are a lot of tensions, I guess is the only word I keep using, to figure out how this is going to go. And honestly, the state's not always straightforward. They finally just gave us the social studies, what is that, the thing that just came out last week, the draft curriculum, the updated draft curriculum. And again, I kind of laugh because it's maddeningly vague. And so you're never sure, okay, how is this going to connect to whatever the test is actually going to be? So there's still a lot of agita about that, even at the middle school, where we've had more of the training.
Well, the elementary is more blue skies and sunshine because we have lots of we're all integrated. So all the new Common Core, math, ELA, we can integrate that into any curriculum area. Our units we did were definitely something that we did use. We did 2 different units in the ELA and the math unit. Again, the ELA has integrated math in it, science, social studies, again, the same thing with the math. We have everything integrated in. So it's a lot easier for us. We don't have everything compartmentalized. So it is a lot easier for us to do the curriculum for us because everything, and we're responsible for everything. So it makes it easier when we just have to go deeper into what we need to teach. There are some things we need to let go of. In kindergarten, for example, we always used to teach time, we used to teach money, we used to teach beginning of symmetry, things like that. Everything like that is gone. So we really have to teach deeper into knowing the facts, knowing missing numbers, added, things like that we really always went on, but we never did as deep as those things.
I guess I would just point out that, in and of itself, I don't know that anybody has thought that APPR all by itself was necessarily a bad thing, or the Common Core. I mean, I think we see a lot of good in both. What we've all said is just not all of it right now at the same time. And Commissioner King would say we can't afford to wait. When I look at all of the work, the things that are listed under the Common Core aligned curriculum, I realize because of APPR, this probably isn't good for my evaluation, but we definitely aren't where I thought we would be as far as giving time and attention to Common Core, and that's a result of how much time went into APPR teacher evaluation and the slow process. So, for me, I'm thinking, for us as a building, something had to give. I think at my level, and what had to give, unfortunately, was probably something that really should not have been pushed aside, but we simply didn't have a choice because of what the other items were requiring. So I guess that's just what I would add.
And could I just interject one thing there on that point? And that is the state actually forced our hand there because they tied state aid to APPR. So it wasn't an option of what we thought would be best to pursue. The state chose that for us.
If we weren't in the school right now, and you weren't board members, and you weren't parents and community members, and we were having this conversation from a business point of view, it's a very sensible thing. You can't change the whole system, the curriculum and the testing, without forcing the buy-in through the accountability. So from a structural point of view, it makes sense. I myself have said, as John knows many times, that I'm not clear on why we had to do it in 1 year, but actually I am, because it has to do with race to the top money and the state. The other piece of it is, it's not just state aid, it's your friendly governor, because it's the governor who flipped the switch with the APPR. While we were working on the Common Core, when Commissioner Steiner was there for his brief moment. So that had started then before the law came about. So down the line, it'll look like it makes sense, but we're not honest if we're not saying that something's got to give, and in every building, in every way, depending upon the strengths and weaknesses and the needs of the building, it gives. But I do know that they talk about teacher agita. I can tell you that, as you know, a principal can walk in, have 3 observations scheduled for the day, 5 walkthroughs, a couple of meetings, and then fight non-school. Every single one of those things comes off the table, because what comes first is what's dealing with the kids. In middle school, same thing. Parent comes in upset about family issues. Those observations and evaluations need to be pushed off. The requirement of the APPR is each one of those observations has a time frame. Or you could have done an observation and you need to get it back in 5 days. You need to meet with that teacher. You can't meet with that teacher because there's something going on that's important. Or there's an urgent meeting that needs to be called among everybody. So it is a very stressful process for people who are running buildings that are based on human behavior and human need, and can't just simply be scheduled like the next appointment on the, at the hairdresser or something. In order to manage all of this information, we had to, when we talk about implementing the maps and everything that everybody said they needed to be trained in, we needed to check this backside of it to make sure we had the technology that would fit, to work with their technology people, to make sure our machines could deal with what they needed to deal with until we went web-based, which we're not eligible for until we have our fingers crossed from a lot of arm wrestling for the spring, which will change some of it. But in order to do that, we had to upload tons of information to them about our teachers. It's just not magic that Johnny goes with this teacher and Mary goes with this teacher. The class lists and all of that needs to be prepared in a certain way, given to them, checked, and uploaded by them. So both our information specialist and our technology professor had, again, things pushed off of their beginning front burners so that these things could be dealt with so that we could get it done in place. The curriculum mapping system, the use of spreadsheets to create all of this information, using Castle Learning, which we've used throughout the district. Ames Web, IEP Direct, all of the back end of dealing with that. A lot of it is web-based, but some of it is information that we need to push up. So the fact that more of this is reportable and needed took a tremendous amount of time. Teaching teachers how to use the formative data, included training on the implementation of the systems. Stepping Stones is a good example of that. Using their AimsWeb data, there are people that do use AimsWeb with their students. All of that training needed to take place along with training principals. The superintendent made reference to the OASIS system. Thank good God for Kathy. Kathy and I had to work a lot because this system, again, isn't magic. We had to build the forms for them. They worked it out. Then we had to work the math behind all of it and give it to them. In the meantime, usually you can count on other supports for this. So, for example, the principals would go to their union, who sits at the table in Albany. When the teachers union went to their leadership, actually it was our union leadership that was informing the statewide union leadership about what they were missing in the process. So we were dealing with things that we needed to call to people's attention because they hadn't taken it early into account. And then the principals, once we were able to get the system up and running, the principals needed to learn how to use the information that they knew and understood in this system. So how do you do an observation? How do you do an evaluation in this system? Because what the state did was change everything that I've known in my 100 years in the business, turned it on its side about how you do an observation. Because all they want is the evidence. We were trained to tell the story in the 40 minutes. So that's a big, difficult shift, and we're working together on doing that. But these are, it's important to understand that a lot of what we're talking about, the teachers' behaviors, the administrators' behaviors, all of the changes in the teaching and the learning, these are all behaviors. This isn't like a method like how you saw a log or how you drive a truck. It's really about changing human behavior and the way you do things. And it's a lot of the way you do everything. For the teachers, it's the way you think about your planning, the way you teach, the way you assess, the way you work with your students, the way you work with your colleagues. It's like, it's an incredible behavior shift, which is very difficult. We had to change the elementary report card. Seems like a simple sentence. It's not. We had to go back. We had to leave the one that we did, the standing space white panel one, to go into the e-school report card for the elementary school. Because one of the major changes that the state is requiring is the reporting of minutes. So in order to determine the attendance of the students, we had to look at how many things we were asking teachers to do and change. If we change to the e-school report